Join me as I take on the challenge of discovering some DIY skills every woman should have without calling a contractor. I recently paid a plumber almost $400 to change the back part of my son's toilet. Now, this is something I know I could have gone to YouTube and figured out myself. I just didn't think the cost would be so high. But from now on, before I have a contractor come out to do something, I'm definitely going to check and see if I can figure out how to do it myself. I have a friend who will go under her house to check out plumbing issues in her crawl space. And I said, oh my gosh, because I'm a little claustrophobic. I said, I would never do that. And she said, well, the funny thing is every time I go under there, a little man pops out and gives me $150. And what she meant by that, of course, was that she wasn't having to pay someone else to do something she was perfectly capable of doing. At the end of the video, I'll show you several things I did to turn my 1973 ranch into a much more modern looking home. Before we get started, let's talk about the basics. You will need some tools, not an entire workshop, but you'll need a hammer, a set of screwdrivers, probably a heat gun, a drill, a sander possibly, and a few basic hand tools like a scraper, a spatula, and maybe a puller of nails or carpet tacks. Installing window blinds or curtains or the hardware for hanging curtains is something every woman could do. Measure twice, drill once. Most blinds come with easy brackets and even little guides to show you how to mark them. So just mark them according to the guides, measure of course, and drill, and then all you need is a screwdriver and snap those babies in. All by my lonesome, I have painted I believe 5 houses now, top to bottom, outside and inside. One of those houses was even a Tudor home that was had a very steep pitch. And I remember hanging over the roof and painting the eaves. Maybe not something I would do today, but I could if I was pressed. And in the ranch house I live in now, I have replaced every single light switch and every single outlet. So not just the covers, the actual outlet itself, because when I inherited this house, I didn't inherit it, I purchased it. But when I got this house, all of those were yellowed and old and yucky, and so I wanted new. And so I replaced all of those. Only one of them did I get reversed so that when you go to turn my son's office light on, you actually have to turn it off. And I figured I'm not going to worry about that because a lot of the wiring was really old wiring and I had to sort of force it back in. It was those really long, thick, wires that you just have to muscle in there. And I didn't want to have to do that again. If you're going to do this, of course, you want to turn the power off first or you'll get a little shock. Not a big shock, but a little shock. And it's very easy to do. It's super easy to do. This is something you could definitely do yourself. And I'll show you at the end, there was kind of this weird entrance to my house. It was like a bowling alley. So you walk in and you sort of have to, you're on a platform that kind of looks sort of like a bowling alley. It's not as long as a bowling alley, of course. But then there's a drop off into the dining room and then they had like a wrought iron sort of gate that ran along it to keep you from falling off of this platform. And there was no rhyme or reason to it. No, it wasn't like built for accessibility or anything. It just was something they did in the 70s, I guess. So we had to get into that. My son and I worked on this together and pull out all of that wood and get it down to the base level so that everything was on the same level before we had bamboo floors put in. The other thing I did at this house is it had really ugly carpeting. Wait till you see the before and after, you will not believe it. So it had ugly carpeting and ugly light fixtures, and so I ripped up that carpeting and the the carpet tacks that came with it. There's some pry bars that you can get that are specially for carpet tacks, and it makes your world so much easier. And also you want to have knee pads or something that you can rest your knees on when you're doing that, because this is sort of hard work. Another thing I did was refinish my countertops. I inherited, with this house, I inherited some really kind of ugly 𝗵𝗫𝗬 white countertops that were stained and cracking and scratched, and I couldn't really afford to like replace the countertops at that time. So what I did was I bought a kit that it's a faux painting kit, and it makes it look, it's a couple step process. It makes it look like it's granite, and it really looked great when I was done. And I am not really that creative in terms of artistic work. So if you just pay attention and follow the directions, there's some great faux finishes you can sort of tide you over until you're ready to do a more complete remodel. I've also changed out water faucets from a sink in the kitchen and a sink in my bathroom, and it's fairly easy to do. Here's what you need to do. So obviously turn off your water source that's underneath the sink. Then unscrew the old one, and you'll find the nut for it up underneath inside the cupboard, underneath the sink. And then wrap plumber's tape around the threads and twist on the new one. You will feel like a boss. I have replaced the wax ring on my toilet. It's actually very easy, and it could save you a couple $100 having someone else come out and do it. So what you need to do is turn the water off that goes to the toilet. Take all of the water out of the toilet using a bucket, just basically bail the water out of the toilet, because you're trying to get the weight out of the toilet. Take the lid off the back of it, unscrew what needs to be unscrewed so that you can remove the toilet. You'll have to stand over it and then sort of straddle it, and then you can lift it up and move it out of the way. Then the wax ring is exposed, and you just scrape that off and then put your new wax ring on and replace the toilet and hook everything back up again. It could not be simpler, and it will save you a couple $100 because the supplies cost like, what, $20? As I think I mentioned, I have painted 5 houses inside and outside by myself. My painting skills are not the best, I will say that. I've painted my living room, and it's a vaulted living room, the one in the house I'm living in now, and I can see that I could have done a better job. But when I was painting it, I was on an extension ladder that slipped out from under me, and I was headed for the floor. And the only thing that stopped me was a small stand that I have some DVDs on, and the ladder hit that stand, and so I stopped about 2 feet from the floor. But I did dent the wall, and I finished painting, but that was a little scary. And speaking of denting walls, another thing that we should all know how to do is spackle. So if there's a hole in your wall, it's so easy to get some spackle and just put it in there. It's like kind of like toothpaste. You just put it in there and then smooth it out with a little trowel. But I will say this, if it's a big hole, you're gonna wanna texturize it. And so it's super easy to do that. You just buy some, if you have like orange peel wall, you just buy some spray orange peel at the hardware store. So it's called texturizer or orange peel texture, and you just spray it lightly over that, let it dry, and then you can paint over it, and you'd never know there was a hole there. Just one quick war story before I show you my before and after on my house. I remember I said that I had replaced a couple of faucets. Well, this one time I went to do that in this house, I couldn't shut the water off down below because the knobs that you use, the shutoff valves, were frozen. They were stuck. They were not going to budge for anything. I tried a wrench, I tried everything, and they would not budge. So I decided, okay, well, I'll just cut above. I'll cut the line above those, and maybe it install new, whatever. I had not shut the water off to the street. So what I got from that experience was soaked to my underwear. My new bamboo floors were just covered in water, and I had to send my son over the neighbor to go out to the street and shut the street water off. And I got a lesson I'll never forget. So don't forget to shut off your water. There's nothing more satisfying than doing something yourself that you would have had to pay someone hundreds or even thousands of dollars to do. So next time you have a project, think about doing it yourself. Check out C. Jane Drill. Check out, there's lots of handyman YouTube videos that can show you how to do things. Just watch them over and over. Sometimes I will take my phone into the area where I'm actually doing the work, and I'll put that thing on repeat. So I'm like, no, what am I supposed to be doing now? And that's really helpful. And there are times when I get myself into trouble and I take off a little more than I should too. But in general, I've been very satisfied with the work I've done. So have you ever done a DIY project that you either regretted or were super proud of? Please leave a note in the comments. Please subscribe, and I will see you next time. In the meantime, stay fearless and fabulous.